So right now in the UFC there are a lot of great strikers, and we also see a lot of great striking from the current champions. And as you all know, I'm also a huge fan of striking in general, so in this video I decided to rank every single current UFC champion based on striking. So let's get right into it by starting off with number 8, Alexandre Pantoja. And this guy is this low on the list simply because he isn't as good of a striker as the other champions. The only weapon this guy has on the feet is his pace. The guy literally runs in and throws punches, and his striking for the most part is only used to set up takedowns. And we saw what happened to him when he fought a good striker in Steve Erceg. But I will say the way he throws punches and kicks aren't too bad. The guy's striking simply isn't that good. Regardless, he's a very good fighter overall though. So next at number 7 we have the guy who somehow became champion, Belal Muhammad. And with this guy's striking, you can almost mistake him for Canelo. Nah, I'm joking, but he does have pretty good boxing. He has fast hands, combined with a heavy pressure and high pace, and he messed up Leon in the striking too, which was very surprising. He kept a lot of pressure on Leon, so Leon just couldn't get his striking started. But I will say that a big reason to why Belal was able to outstrike Leon on the feet was because of the takedown threat, and Leon was also very desperate to create distance between them. So instead of throwing back in the pocket, where he actually did find some success in the final round, he kept backing up and kept his hands very high so Belal was able to get the takedown. So next at number 6 we have the African champion himself, DDP, and some people might think this guy should be at last place because this guy has horrible technique, but I honestly think his lack of technique actually makes him very good. DDP is so unorthodox on the feet, it actually gives him an advantage. He's also very powerful unlike Pantoja and Belal, but like Pantoja and Belal he does weaponize his pace quite well. And you can't deny this guy's wins either. The guy dropped Whitaker, which is very impressive, and he also did very well on the feet against Strickland, who's also a very good striker. But I do think that his success with the striking in those fights were due to the takedown threat. So if he fought them in a pure kickboxing fight, I do think those fights would have gone a lot different. This might be a little off topic, but I will say that the fact that DDP is so unorthodox can actually cause some problems on the feet for Adesanya, but I do think he needs to utilize his grappling in that fight in order to beat a skilled striker like Adesanya. So next at number 5 we have Jon Jones, and I know some Jones fans, if he still has any, are gonna be pretty mad about me putting him this low, but hear me out. Jon Jones was a beast when it came to the striking back in the day, but that was because people weren't as technical back then, and most of the guys back then were also like a head shorter than him. And we saw what happened to him when he fought someone like Gustafsson for the first time. When he fought someone who had similar proportions to himself, he had an extremely hard time. He also got outstruck by Dominic Reyes. Crazy robbery, but hey, it really showed that the guy has some pretty bad boxing. But something he does have though is pretty solid kicks and elbows, I'll give him that. I guess if I really had to describe Jones' striking, I would say that he fights similar to like a Muay Thai fighter in a way. You know, great emphasis on the kicks and elbows, but kinda lacking in the boxing department. But again, he's a rangy guy, so he can for the most part avoid boxing exchanges with eye pokes. And obviously, if we're gonna talk about the real heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall, he would be way higher on the list. So next at number 4 we have Islam Makhachev, and this might be a little controversial because a lot of people might think he should be a little higher on this list. And while it is true that Islam Makhachev is a very skilled striker, I don't think he's better than the people above him because the takedown threat does make a big difference. Now that said, Makhachev did really well in his striking against Poirier and in his second fight against Volk, where he knocked out Volk with a head kick in the first round, but he also got kinda messed up by Volk in their first fight, where Volk had a full training camp. But regardless, those are still two pretty good performances. Makhachev is a southpaw who has some really solid kicks, which is a pattern we see in a lot of Dagestanis with good striking, like Umar Nurmagomedov for example. His hands are still pretty solid though, and he's also very powerful, which is pretty obvious considering how big he is for lightweight. Anyways, next at number 3 I have Ilia Topuria, and the reason I put Topuria over Makhachev is because even though Makhachev has better wins against strikers, he is still mainly a wrestler, which makes his striking reliant on the threat of the takedown. And even though Topuria has a grappling background, he very rarely uses his grappling in an offensive way. Plus Makhachev barely beat Volk when Volk was in a full camp, despite Makhachev being way bigger than Volk. And I just think that Topuria is a better striker overall. His boxing is his main weapon and he is extremely technical. In his fight against Volk, he was very passive in the beginning. But after 2 minutes in the first round, he started landing a lot of good shots on Volk. And in the end, he actually knocked him out, which really shows how precise he is with his boxing, considering Volk is very fast on the feet. He's also very good defensively. He switches between a Philly shell and a high guard. And on top of that, he's also very powerful. However, he does have a pretty obvious weakness, which is the leg kicks. He stands very lead leg heavy in order to optimize his boxing. And he also doesn't use his kicks that much. The only kicks we pretty much see from him are his leg kicks, which is a big reason to why I put these next ones above him. So next at number 2 we have Sean O'Malley, and I think O'Malley is probably the most versatile striker out of all the champions. The guy has very good boxing, extremely fast hands. He's also really good at kicking on top of that. The guy can basically do it all on the feet. And on top of that, he's also extremely creative. A lot of feints, stance switches and flashy techniques. And I would say by far that he is the fastest striker in the division. He doesn't only use his speed for offense though. He also uses it defensively to move out of the way of attacks. He can also fight going backwards very well, which I think is very important if you're a tall striker. Vera couldn't hold a candle to this guy on the feet. O'Malley gave Vera a different face, bro. Facial surgery. He also did a very good job in the striking against Peter Yan, who I think is one of the best strikers in the UFC. O'Malley also has no obvious weaknesses on the feet. I know the commentary is always yapping about the leg kicks ever since Chito Vera kicked his nerve, but I think it's being quite overplayed by the commentators. Now the best UFC champion based on striking, as a lot of you probably guessed when you clicked on this video, is of course Alex Pereira. The guy's a former Double Glory champion, which means he held 2 belts in 2 different weight classes in the biggest kickboxing organization in the world, which is obviously very impressive and should already take him to the top of this list in my opinion. But besides that, he also has some really solid wins against some of the best strikers in his weight classes. Knocked out Strickland, finished Adesanya, beat Blachowicz, knocked out Jury, knocked out Till, and knocked out Jury again. And when looking at Pereira, the first thing that obviously comes up is his left hook. Probably the scariest punch in the UFC right now, but he isn't just a power puncher, he's also very technical and calculated. A lot of people only remember him getting knocked out by Adesanya, but he was actually outstriking Adesanya in their last fight in MMA. He's also very good at setting up some of his best shots, like his left hook. The perfect example of this is in his fight against Strickland, where Pereira conditioned Strickland to overparry his jabs by intentionally jabbing to the chest instead of the face of Strickland, which then opened up a path for the left hook. Pereira is also a master of the leg kicking game. The guy throws his kicks with zero telegraph, which explains why he's able to land it even against some of the best strikers in the UFC. Pereira does get hit a lot though, but he often rolls with the punches, and he also has a pretty good shin, which makes up for his lack of boxing defense. And his shin was also quite compromised for a while when he was fighting at middleweight, due to the weight cut of course, but at light heavyweight his shin is a lot better, and he was able to eat clean shots from someone like Jiri. Anyways, I think this list is pretty solid. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. And also if you're interested in more of these list style videos, check out one of my older videos where I made a list of the best strikers in every weight class. But anyways, that's it for today guys. Thanks for watching, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.